Stop, you haven't subscribed to the channel yet. Subscribe now, we have new stories every day. Now let's go. I eased back into my seat on the flight, staring out the window as the plane climbed higher. After 30 years, I was finally headed back for good, a decision I made because of my deep love for my wife, Monica. I pulled out my well-worn Zippo, a gift from her, with an inscription that read, "To my beloved husband, Gavin. Congratulations, Marine." That's me, Gavin Mitchell, known to some as Gav or Mitch, but in my military circles I was simply called Gunny. Today I was adding a new title to the list, retired. For more than 3 decades, I wore the uniform adorned with medals that held deep personal meaning. Over 10 of those years were spent in the reserves. I've seen it all and earned every badge, every ribbon. By the time Monica and I got hitched, I was already in good shape, having met her by chance one day after work. I was a mechanic at a car dealership in Helena, Montana, when I spotted her stranded on the roadside. Her car hood was up and steam poured from the engine. I offered to help and quickly diagnosed the issue: a broken fan belt. A quick trip to the auto parts store and a few minutes of repairs had her car running smoothly again. "Thank you so much," she said, relief washing over her face. "I thought I'd never make it back to Billings. Just get home safe," I replied, ready to be on my way. "Let me repay you," she insisted, smiling. "How about dinner? You like Red Lobster?" I couldn't resist. "Yeah, I love Red Lobster," I said, grinning. She scribbled her name and number. "Great, how about Friday at 7 p.m.? "Sounds perfect," I confirmed, and that Friday marked the start of our journey together. 8 months later, I proposed, and by 1987, we were married. Monica moved into my home in northern Montana, which meant adding over 30 miles to her commute as a teacher in Billings. We considered moving closer to her job, but I couldn't part with the house. It sat on 5 wooded acres, passed down from my folks, just off Interstate 90. It was a legacy I hoped to one day pass down to our kids. Despite the long hours and my commitments with the reserves, Monica never complained. She was always there, even depositing what she could into my IRA. Our daughter Emily was born about a year and a half into our marriage. Then, in 1990, when Saddam Hussein invaded Kuwait, I got called up to active duty for over a year. By the time I got home, our son, Charlie, was born. After September 11, things changed. I went on active duty again, rotating between Camp Lejeune in California and Camp Redstone in North Carolina. Monica adapted, getting certified to teach in both states, securing work wherever we ended up. My time in service included 3 tours in Iraq, 3 in Afghanistan, and 4 stints in Okinawa, totaling over 6 years away from home. Through it all, Monica held down the fort, even though I knew how hard it was on her and the kids. I had promised Monica this would be my last deployment. At 56, I knew desert warfare was for the younger guys. It was time to come home for good. After 3 decades of service, you might wonder why I wasn't higher up the ranks. The truth is, I enjoyed a good drink with my brothers in arms and defended them fiercely, even if it meant losing a promotion or 2. Being a dependable leader, a gunnery sergeant who earned the respect of his Marines, was enough for me. At my retirement party, Lieutenant Colonel Harris, the man who disciplined me more times than I'd care to admit, showed up. We had no hard feelings. In fact, we'd become friends. He gave me a combination, and we shared a handshake that sealed our bond. "The Corps won't be the same without you, Gunny," he said with a warm smile. "Thanks, Colonel," I replied, "but I trust it's in good hands." Lance Corporal Jenkins, flanked by a few of his buddies, approached me with a brown-wrapped parcel. "Just a little something to remember us by, Gunny," he said with a grin. I unwrapped it and burst out laughing, a wooden hand, middle finger raised. Jenkins had carved it himself, with the Marine Corps emblem and our unit designation etched into the back. "You made this?" I asked, genuinely impressed. "Sure did, Gunny," Jenkins replied, beaming. "Well, hell of a job," I said, shaking his hand. "I'll treasure it forever." As I made my way toward the exit, Staff Sergeant Jake Hansen, who was taking over as the machine gunner, walked up. I shook his hand, offering some final advice. "Look after these guys, Jake. They're good men." "I will, Gunny. I won't let you down," he promised. "You better not," I joked, "or I'll come back and give you hell." The guys laughed, and I said my final goodbyes. As the plane descended, I looked out at the familiar skyline of Billings, taking in the river, the cliffs, and the familiar landmarks. Memories of taking Monica and the kids to the park on weekends flooded my mind. Once I landed, I scanned the crowd for Monica. I let her know I was coming, but she wasn't there yet. I grabbed my bags, figuring she'd show up soon, but something felt off. I shot her a quick text. "Where are you?" No response. I tried calling her phone. It went straight to voicemail. A sense of unease settled over me. I called the house. No answer. God, I whispered, please let her be okay. Her parents hadn't heard from her either. Do you need a ride? Her mother offered. Not yet, I replied. Maybe she's just stuck in traffic. I'll wait and call you if I can't find another ride. No point in you driving all this way. I will, Gavin, Monica promised before hanging up. My thoughts were interrupted by a stranger's voice. Need a lift, Gunny, he offered, loading some luggage into a white SUV. I thought my wife was picking me up, I admitted. Where to? He asked. Montana, near Flathead Lake, I replied. I'm headed that way, he offered. Beats a cab. I appreciated the offer. Thanks, at least let me cover gas. He waved it off. Company card covers it, he explained. I tossed my bags into the back and settled into the passenger seat. Vacation, he guessed. Retirement, I corrected. 30 years and 30 to go, he observed. Long day, he noted, introducing himself as Sam Jacobs. You could say that. I agreed, shooting Monica a text. Got a ride. See you soon. So any plans now? Sam asked as we pulled out onto the highway. Not much. Fishing, hunting, spending more time with the wife. I shrugged. I heard you, he chuckled. I retired after 25 years as an Army lieutenant colonel, but let me tell you, retirement's not all it's cracked up to be. What do you do now? I inquired. I run a camp for men up north, he revealed. Really? I raised an eyebrow. Never heard of it. What's it for? It helps men going through tough times, he explained. Like what? I asked, curious. Infidelity, for one, he said knowingly. That hit a nerve. Yeah, I'm unfortunately familiar with that, I muttered to myself. We help them physically, mentally, emotionally, and legally, Sam outlined. Sounds intense, I remarked. How long do they stay? 3 months, kinda like boot camp, he replied. Sounds rigorous, I commented. Ever been a drill instructor? At Paris Island, I confirmed. Got promoted to staff sergeant there. Then you're familiar with our methods, he noted. I found myself intrigued by his words and by the idea of this camp. I've been given approval to bring on a senior instructor to oversee the staff, welcome new students, and manage the curriculum. You're interested, he asked. It definitely piqued my interest. Feels like we crossed paths for a reason. You're perceptive, Gavin, he said with a smile. The company has had its eye on you for a while. Me? I asked, surprised. Why? He replied. You're a local, a combat vet with an impressive record, and some bar incidents caught our attention. You're exactly what we need. So, your company's been watching me? I asked, feeling a little weary. Yes, Sam confirmed. We've been waiting for your retirement. This job suits you perfectly, better pay, great benefits, and you report directly to me. Intriguing, I murmured, but there's a catch, isn't there? You're right, he nodded, handing me a folder. Take a look inside. I opened the folder and found a report detailing Monica's affair with her school principal, Eric McKenzie, spanning over 2 decades. My stomach turned as I saw the enclosed DVD. Where did you find this? I asked, feeling a cold dread settle in. I won't sugarcoat it, Gavin, Sam replied. The company vetted you after I showed interest in hiring you. Part of that involved looking into your family life. I assume you didn't know. Not a clue, I admitted, still in shock. How do you know it's been going on for 2 decades? I pressed. Our investigators are thorough, Sam explained. They pieced it together from conversations between your wife and Mackenzie. She's been hiding it well. It made sense now, her frequent absences, the visits that didn't add up. Half the past 20 years she'd spent with him. Damn, I muttered. A terrifying thought crossed my mind. What about the kids? They're yours, he assured me. How can you be sure? I pressed. Our investigators confirmed it, Sam replied. They matched your kid's DNA to yours. I bet you had a feeling she wasn't meeting me at the airport, right? I did, I confirmed. Investigators say they meet after school, and once a week they go to your place. Then he drives home, Sam explained. 70 miles round trip just for a fling, I muttered in disbelief. How could she? Sam shrugged. Long trips, time apart, war. It changes people. Strains even the best marriages. The question is, what now? If all this checks out, divorce is my only option, I concluded. Sam nodded, agreed. And him? I'd like to tear him apart, but I won't risk jail, I said. I understand, Sam said. All the details are in the report. Mackenzie is married with 2 kids. His family has no idea about the affair. You swear this is accurate? I pressed again. Absolutely, Sam affirmed. If I had any doubts, I wouldn't have shown you. I'm sorry, Gavin. You don't deserve this. Who does? I muttered bitterly. Well put, Sam agreed as we pulled into my secluded driveway. You're really off the beaten path, he remarked, admiring the property. Yeah, my parents built this place, I replied. I was hoping Monica and I could retire here together. Looks like it's just me now. Sam handed me a business card. Call me when you're ready. Come to the camp. We'll talk, give you a tour, introduce you around. We have counselors too if you need them. I'm serious about the job, but this comes first, he said, nodding toward the folder. Thanks, Sam, I said, for the ride, the offer, for everything. I'll handle it. I promise you, I'll be in touch. We shook hands, and I grabbed my bags before he drove off. Heading inside, I carried my things into the bedroom and put them in their place. My mind was still spinning from what Sam had told me. Everything was neat, just the way Monica liked it. She might be a cheating liar, I thought bitterly, but at least she keeps the house clean. After putting my stuff away, I changed into some jeans and a t-shirt. Grabbing the folder, I went downstairs. I needed to see the rest of what was in that report. I pulled out the DVD, slid it into the player, and hit play. The footage showed Monica and Eric in what looked like a motel room. So, where are you going to dump him? Eric asked. I don't know, she replied. Probably not until he retires. If you play your cards right, you could get half of his retirement checks and most of his savings in 401k, Eric added. I clenched my fists. What was her plan? Good thing I've got a prenup, I muttered to myself. My dad had made sure of that when he passed away. Everything was in place, just waiting for a name to be put on it. I heard enough. I grabbed the phone book. It wasn't too late, so I called and set up an appointment with a family law attorney for the next morning. I went upstairs, gathered some of Monica's things, and set the bags by the door. Screw her, I thought. If she wants to leave, I'll let her go. Afterward, I spent some time on the couch reflecting on my life with Monica. As far as I knew, things were fine between us. Sure, we had the same problems every married couple has, but we always worked through them. I never imagined she would cheat on me with someone like Eric, a guy who looked like a marshmallow. I even laughed out loud at the thought. In all the years we'd been together, I never once thought that our closeness was causing her physical pain. She never told me. What surprised and impressed me over the years was how she stayed so trim, even after our kids were born. I headed to my office and opened the cabinet where I kept my tools. On the shelf was an unopened package of duct tape, 2 rolls. As I looked at them, an idea popped into my head. I grabbed the tape, a pack of zip ties, and then walked over to my weapon cabinet. I pulled out a .45 caliber pistol, made sure it was empty, and headed to the dining room. I spread everything out on the table, made a sandwich, grabbed a beer, and sat down, waiting for them to arrive. It was getting dark when I heard a car pull into the garage. A few minutes later, I heard them giggling and chatting as Monica opened the door. Neither of them saw me until they stepped into the main part of the house. Monica's eyes widened. Gavin, she exclaimed. When did you get here? Didn't you get my emails and messages? Sorry, my phone battery died, she said, trying to sound casual. Things aren't what they seem, Gavin, trust me. Really? I asked. You mean it's not you and Eric getting ready to have fun in our bed? Eric motioned toward me, and I raised my weapon. He froze, eyes wide, face pale. There were no bullets in the gun. Hell, the magazine didn't even fit the grip, but they didn't know that. Oh God, he screamed. Please don't do this. I noticed a wet spot forming in his pants and couldn't help but smile. Shut up, creep, I said. You think you can mess around with another man's wife for over 20 years and just get away with it? I don't think so. Stand against that tree, I told him. Put your back against it, hands behind your back. I looked at Monica. Tie him to the tree, I ordered. All I want to see are his eyes and nose. She took the first roll of tape and nervously began wrapping it around him. Hurry the hell up, I snapped. Monica started running around the tree, wrapping him tight. When the first roll was used up, I tossed her the second and ordered her to keep going. By the time she finished, Eric was stuck to the tree in a cocoon of duct tape. Only his eyes and nose were visible, darting around in panic. I walked over, made sure he couldn't move, then smiled and pulled out my cell phone. I dialed his home number, which I had thanks to the report Sam had given me. Mackenzie Residence, a woman's voice answered, Caitlin speaking. Mrs. Mackenzie, my name is Gavin Mitchell, I said. Is your husband, Eric, home? No, he has a meeting at the school tonight, she replied. May I take a message? That won't be necessary, Mrs. Mackenzie, I said, but thank you anyway. The truth is, your husband is here at my house with my wife, and I think you should come get him. Eric's eyes widened in terror under the tape. What is he doing at your house with your wife? Caitlin asked, her voice rising. They were planning to fool around, I replied, but they changed their minds. What? Caitlin yelled. Are you sure about that? Is this some kind of sick joke? No, ma'am. It's not a joke, I said. They've been having an affair for over 20 years. That idiot, she screamed. I'm going to kick his rear. I'll be there as soon as I can. Where are you? I asked. Montana, off Highway 93, I said. I'll send you directions. Thank you, Mr. Mitchell, she said, still fuming. After hanging up, I texted her the directions, then looked back at Eric, who was trembling even more than before. I'm going to have a talk with my wife now, I told him. Don't go anywhere. He tried to shake his head, but the tape wouldn't let him. I gestured for Monica to head inside. She hesitated, but I waved her forward, and she followed me into the house. Sit on the couch, I ordered. I picked up the TV remote and motioned to the DVD player. How long has this been going on? I asked. And before you say anything, remember, I know a lot more than you think. Monica looked down. It's been a while, she said quietly. A while, I repeated. What, a month? A year? 10 years? 20? She lowered her face further. Longer, she whispered. Longer? I said, my voice rising. When did it start? Around 1995, she admitted. We worked together for years, but nothing happened while you were home. We only got together when you were gone, including all those times I was overseas. I asked, my anger growing. She nodded. Yes, she said. I'm sorry. I never meant to hurt you. You weren't supposed to find out. So while I was fighting terrorists and getting shot at, you were here having fun with this loser in our bed. I demanded. Monica started crying. Stop crying and answer the question, I barked. She wiped her eyes and nodded. Yes, she whispered. Please, we can get through this. Can't you give me another chance? She asked. Get through this, I said, incredulous. Are you kidding me? You think I should just ignore your cheating? Give me one good reason why I shouldn't kick you to the curb right now. It shouldn't affect us, she said, her voice trembling. And I don't want a divorce. I knew she was lying. I'd heard what she said to Eric. It's too late for that. I replied coldly. I'm seeing a lawyer tomorrow. She glared at me defiantly. You don't want to do that, she warned. Eric told me that if you try to divorce me, I can take half your pension, the house, everything, she threatened. I laughed and held up the prenup. There's just one problem with that, I said. Remember the prenup you signed. It's still valid. The house is mine. My parents left it to me, and the prenup clearly outlines what happens in the case of infidelity. You'll get 40% of our joint savings, no support, and I keep my retirement contributions. I'll fight you, she threatened. I figured you'd say that, I replied, grabbing the TV remote. I hit play, and the video of her with Eric popped up on the screen. Her face turned white, and she covered her mouth with her hand. Oh my God, she gasped. How did you get this? Please turn it off. I shook my head. It doesn't matter how I got it, I said. What matters is what your school board will do when they see this. Monica looked at me in shock. I'm going to lose my job, she muttered, and so will Eric. So you'll sign the divorce papers when you get them? I asked. Defeated, she nodded. I turned the volume up and fast-forwarded to the part where she complained about me being too big for her. Can you explain that to me? I asked. We've been together all these years, and you never said a word. Why didn't you tell me? I didn't want to hurt your feelings, she said. At first, I liked it, and you always turned me on. But after a while, it started to hurt, and that's why you started making excuses to avoid being close with me. I asked. She nodded. Yes, she said. I'm really sorry. Yeah, you keep saying that. I told her. I grabbed her purse, took out her keys, and removed the house key. Then I opened her wallet, took out her ATM and credit cards, but left her STCU card. I knew she had a separate account at the local credit union where she saved part of her paycheck. If she needed money, she could use that. I tossed her purse back onto the couch. I guess I should pack and leave, she said quietly. Not yet, I replied. You still have some explaining to do. You need to tell your parents and our kids about this so they know why we're getting divorced. Please, don't make me do that, she begged through her tears. Why not? I asked. You had no problem cheating on me for 2 decades. Surely you're not ashamed now. They'll hate me, she sobbed. Too bad, I said, picking up the phone. I was about to call her parents when I saw headlights pull into the driveway. Looks like Caitlin's here, I said. You can start by explaining this to her. A moment later, there was a knock at the door. Opening it, I found a woman who looked a little younger than me, well-fed and attractive. She wore ripped jeans that fit perfectly, and I noticed she was eyeing me just as much as I was eyeing her. Yes, I asked. Are you Gavin Mitchell? She asked, glancing at me. Yes, I said. And you must be Caitlin Mackenzie. For the moment, yes, she said. Please come in, I said, opening the door wider. So, where's that piece of trash hiding? She asked, her eyes narrowing. I smiled. I liked her already. He's a little tied up right now, I said, chuckling. He's not going anywhere. Caitlin glared at Monica, her face burning with anger. So you're the one messing around with my soon-to-be ex-husband, she snarled. Monica's face went pale. Oh my God, she whispered. Caitlin, please stop. Shut up, you goddamn strumpet, Caitlin yelled. How can you do this? You're married to this gorgeous person, and you're cheating on him with that Pillsbury Doughboy. Caitlin looked at me over again. Where's that idiot? She asked. I'll take you to him, I said. I headed to my office, grabbed a box cutter, a bottle of isopropyl alcohol, and an old rag. Then I motioned for Caitlin to follow me outside. We reached the tree, and Caitlin burst into laughter when she saw Eric, duct taped to it like a cocoon. Eric's eyes were wide with terror, but all I could see in Caitlin's face was pure satisfaction. I like your style, Gavin, Caitlin said with a grin. It's going to take forever to get him out of this. I shook my head and placed the spork and rag on the ground. No, it won't take long, I replied, but Caitlin held up her hand. Wait a second, she said, walking over to Eric and staring him in the eye. You're a damn creep, she said, removing her rings and throwing them on the ground. You haven't touched me in months, and now I know why. I could tell Caitlin was not someone you wanted to mess with. I pulled out the box cutter and cut through the tape, stepping back as Monica stood to the side. As soon as I freed Eric, he fell to the ground, squirming. Okay, get up, I told him. Get your sorry self back in the house. Caitlin watched as Eric stumbled inside. He's been more fun to watch than I've had in years, she said. Monica pleaded, please, haven't you done enough? No, I said firmly. Call your mom and put her on speakerphone. Monica hesitated but finally dialed. Hi, Mom, she said through sobs. It's me, Monica. Her mother's voice came through the speaker. Monica, what's wrong? Are you hurt? Mom, Gavin is kicking me out of the house, Monica cried. Why is he doing that? Her mother asked, clearly concerned. He found out I cheated on him, Monica admitted between sobs. Her mother's tone immediately shifted to anger. You did what? You stupid cow, how could you do that to your husband? I thought I raised you better than that. What the hell is wrong with you? I don't blame him for kicking you out. Mom, please, can I stay with you for a while? Monica begged. I think so, her mother replied, but not for too long. And no men, do you understand? Thank you, Mom, Monica whispered. Is Gavin there? Her mother asked. I'm here, Mom, I said. I'd always liked Monica's parents and had called them Mom and Dad since we got married. Are you okay, son? She asked, her voice softening. I'll be fine, Mom, I replied. It won't be easy, but I'll get through it. I'm so sorry, Gavin, Monica's mother said. You've always been so good to her. I don't know what got into her brain. Please stay in touch, she added. I will, Mom. Thank you, I said before the call ended. I turned to Monica. You got 2 more calls to make, so get to it. Monica's face was a mess of tears as she pleaded, please don't make me do this. Why not? I asked. They deserve to hear the truth. Trembling, Monica picked up the phone and called our son Charlie. Hi, Mom, he answered. Are you okay? No, Monica replied. Your father and I are getting a divorce. What? Charlie asked, shocked. It can't be. Did Dad cheat on you or something? No, son, Monica said, her voice breaking. I cheated on your dad, and he found out. Mom, how could you? Charlie asked, his voice filled with disappointment. Is Dad there? Monica asked. I'm here, son, I said. Before you ask, I'm fine. I just felt you needed to hear the truth. Your mother's been doing this for over 20 years. I only found out today. Oh my God, Dad, Charlie said. I'm so sorry to hear that. I'm sorry too, son, I added. I'll talk to you later. Charlie said quickly, ending the call. Monica sat on the couch, her sobs uncontrollable. One more call, I reminded her. She looked up at me, her eyes red and puffy. Please, I'm begging you, she pleaded. No more, I insisted. One more call, I repeated. Trembling, Monica dialed our daughter Veronica's number. The call went much like the others, only Veronica was far more upset than Charlie. You stupid cow, Veronica shouted when Monica explained. I hope Dad kicks your sorry self to the curb. He is, Monica said, barely audible. How could you be so stupid? Veronica asked, her voice shaking with anger. You're not my mother right now. I don't know who you are, but you better get your act together or you'll never see your grandchildren. Don't call me ever again. Goodbye. As Veronica hung up, Monica broke down, sobbing harder than ever. I watched her for a moment before saying, Are you starting to realize the consequences of your actions? You completely destroyed 2 families with your selfishness. I hope you're happy. Monica wiped her eyes and whimpered, I told you I was sorry. Everyone hates me now. Well, what you sow is what you reap, I replied coldly. It's time for you to leave. I've already packed your toiletries and some of your things. You can come back later for the rest. Monica nodded, got up, and went upstairs. She grabbed the suitcase and overnight bag I had left by the bedroom door and came back downstairs. Caitlin stopped her before she reached the front door. Wait a second, Caitlin said, her tone sharp. So let me get this straight. Your husband has been messing around with mine for over 20 years. Monica glanced down, ashamed. Yeah, she mumbled. Well then, Caitlin smirked, I guess you won't mind if I poach your man. Monica's head shot up. What? She stammered. It's been ages since I've been with a real man, and yours seems pretty comfy, Caitlin added with a wink at me. So what do you think, Gavin? Out for a little payback. Monica's suitcase hit the floor, tears streaming down her face. You wouldn't, she sobbed. Please don't do this to me. I don't know, I shrugged. It's the best offer I've had lately. Plus, why should cheaters have all the fun? Caitlin chuckled. I guess you've got a point, she said, smirking. Monica looked defeated. No, you don't, she muttered. Cow. Caitlin shot back. And don't forget to take out the trash, she added, grabbing Eric by the collar. I don't care where you sleep tonight, your car or a motel, it's up to you. But I never want to see you again, idiot. Lawyer appointment tomorrow, clear. Eric nodded miserably. Crystal, he muttered, slinking toward the door. Monica glanced at me one last time. I'm sorry, Gavin, for everything. Goodbye, I said, watching as she left the house in my life. We stood there for a moment, watching as Monica drove off. I could feel my eyes welling up. You okay? Caitlin asked, her voice softening. Yeah, just something in my eye, I said, wiping away the tears. Crap, she murmured with a smile. I chuckled, but inside I was still wondering, how do you walk away from 30 years? Caitlin sighed. Open up to new possibilities, she advised. I nodded. You really didn't know any of this, she asked. I shook my head. Nope, just found out today. She was at it while I was on one of my trips. What about you? Did you suspect anything with Eric? She asked. I had my suspicions, I admitted. Her perfume on his clothes, but I never caught him. Figured it might come to this. What's your next move? She asked. I'm not sure, I said. What about you? She sighed. I've always been a stay-at-home wife and mom. It's all I ever wanted. My mom raised me old school, taught me the best job for a woman was homemaker. I married straight out of high school, never had a paying job, just wanted to keep my husband happy and raise my kids right, but I'll figure it out. I nodded, confident she'd bounce back. Did you mean what you said earlier about love? I asked. She chuckled. Would you like to stay over? I offered. Are you sure? She questioned. I'd enjoy the company, I assured her. I suppose I wouldn't mind, she agreed. That night we grew closer. Before falling asleep, I asked, why'd you stick with him then? Believe it or not, I loved him once, she admitted. He was good to me and the kids. And you loved your wife too, right? I asked. Yeah, I did, I acknowledged. Part of me probably always will, but I won't tolerate cheating. I feel the same way, she agreed. To me, the marriage is done. So what's next? I wondered. You mean for us, she clarified. I nodded. What, she began. I like you, Gavin Mitchell. I'd like to see where this goes. I like that too, I agreed, she smiled. The next morning, she greeted me with a smile. Good morning, lover, she said. Want some breakfast? I love it, I replied. Great, she said. I got coffee brewing. What's on your agenda today? I got a lawyer meeting and some work stuff, I listed. And you? I'm heading home after breakfast. Then I'll schedule my own lawyer appointment, she said. Catch you downstairs, she added as she left the room. I went about my morning routine, showered, and decided on my classy uniform. Once dressed, I made my way downstairs. Caitlin's eyes widened when she saw me. Are you in the Army? She asked. Marines, I corrected. For about another month. I'm on terminal leave before retirement. She had the ribbons and badges on my chest. Where are those for? She asked. Different things, I replied, pointing to one. This one's for being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Oh my God, she gasped. You were wounded in combat. For times, I confirmed. Where have you been? She asked. Desert Storm in the 90s, then 6 tours between Iraq and Afghanistan, I answered. How long have you been in the military? She asked. Over 30 years, mostly active duty, I answered. So your wife cheated on you while you were at war, she clarified. And you knew? Yes, I affirmed. What an idiot, she muttered. He'll pay for that. After breakfast, we stepped outside. She asked me to call her after she got home. I agreed. The lawyer meeting went smoothly. After reviewing my evidence, including the prenup and financial data, he concluded that alimony seemed unlikely due to Monica's income. The house and pension were protected, but the joint bank account would need to be split according to the prenup. When do you want to file? He asked. ASAP, I said firmly. Great, he replied. Getting it to Montana might need a bit of extra effort, but we manage that routinely. I'll handle the paperwork and filing. If all goes smoothly, we could finalize this early next week. You'll just need to cover the filing fee and my service charge. He handed me a checklist. Here's a list to safeguard your interests. Hopefully, your wife hasn't accessed the bank yet. I glanced over the list and noted that a bank visit was urgent, while the rest could be managed online. Any questions? He asked. I shook my head. None for now, I confirmed. He passed me his card and shook my hand. Feel free to reach out if needed. Best of luck. I paid the fees, left the office, and called Sam once I got into my car. Just wrapped up with the lawyer, I said. I need to sort out some bank matters, but let's talk about that job you mentioned. I'll be around, Gunny, he assured me. Looking forward to it. After our conversation ended, he texted me directions to the campground. At the bank, I found out Monica hadn't accessed the account yet. I withdrew 60%, opened a new account in my name, canceled joint credit cards, paid off the balances, and ordered new ATM and credit cards for myself. Then, I drove to the campground, about 35 miles northeast of my home. Despite the longer drive, it gave me time to reflect. In just one day, I'd gone from being a contentedly married man looking forward to retirement with my wife to discovering over 20 years of betrayal. 6 of those years I'd spent in a war zone, risking my life. I realized I was handling Monica's betrayal the way I would face an enemy in combat, with calculated precision. Thankfully, there was Caitlin. Alone, I don't know how I'd cope. Her vitality, honesty, and comfort in bed were reassuring, but I worried about rushing into something new right after ending things with Monica. Eventually, I arrived at Camp Valor. Traffic had been light, so I sped up, only slowing down when I reached a gate guarded by a camouflage-clad sentry, armed and ready. I'm here to see Sam Jacobs, I said. Name's Gavin Mitchell. I handed him Sam's card and my driver's license. As instructed, I waited. One moment, sir, the guard responded, scrutinizing my truck before heading back to the shack. I watched him converse on a field phone for a few moments before he returned and handed back my documents. Commandant Jacobs is expecting you. Welcome to Camp Valor, Gunny Mitchell, he declared. Before I could express my gratitude, he opened the gate and waved me through. Negotiating a series of tight turns, I soon found myself inside a military-style camp. The premises were neat, with tidy wooden structures surrounding a central area where men drilled. The lawns were impeccably groomed. Finding the camp headquarters, I parked and stepped out of the truck. An attractive blonde, dressed professionally, greeted me with a smile. You must be Sergeant Mitchell, she presumed. Yes, I affirmed. Welcome to Camp Valor, she said, extending her hand. Commandant Jacobs is awaiting you. Care for some coffee? Black, please. That'd be great, I replied. Of course, she said with a nod. Please come in. I knocked on the door to Jacob's office, and he waved me in while finishing up a phone call. His khaki uniform shirt displayed silver oak leaves, signaling his rank in the Army. Once he hung up, he rose to greet me. Glad you made it, Gunny, he said with a smile. Please, take a seat. I settled into the chair as the receptionist brought my coffee. Thank you, I said, taking a sip. Just what I needed. No issues getting here, he asked. None. Your directions were spot on, I assured him. Good, he nodded. Before we dive in, let me explain a bit about the men who come here. Every man here is suffering. Most have been cheated on, some have been mistreated physically, emotionally, or both. Betrayal and humiliation are common threads. I can relate, I said, taken aback by the honesty. So, what's your approach? I inquired. The first step is focus, then physical strength, Sam explained. We restrict all internet access. No phones, no laptops, no tablets, nothing. For 3 months, these men live without any online connection. No emails, no Facebook, no YouTube, nothing. I'm sure they love that, I remarked sarcastically. It's tough for some. Sam acknowledged many were glued to their phones before coming here, completely disconnected from their own lives. We stripped that distraction away, forced them to confront their issues. How do they stay connected with their families? I asked. That's a valid concern, Sam nodded. We assigned them a mailbox for correspondence. All communication is done through regular mail, with post offices in Bonners Ferry and Clark Fork handling deliveries twice a week. It's a trek to reach them, but we aim to prevent distractions or interference from spouses. You mentioned security. I probed. Any incidents? There have been attempts, Sam admitted. We thwarted them. It's all in the packet I'll give you. Thwarted? I mused. It was a telling term. I wondered what exactly it entailed. Tell me more about the training regimen, I pressed. Here's a quick rundown, Sam said. In the first month, we break them down. It's a lot like boot camp. The day starts at 500 with drills. They move quickly everywhere. No dawdling. Physical training is rigorous, and they are under constant supervision. Sounds intense, I remarked. It is, Sam agreed. In the second month, they meet with counselors and continue their physical training. We also start self-defense lessons. The third month is about reinforcing the work they've done and connecting them with lawyers for any legal matters. Sam glanced at his watch. Actually, there's a group session going on right now. You might want to sit in. Sure, I agreed. We left his office and headed to another building. Inside, a group of men sat in a semicircle, facing a female counselor. The instructor at the door nodded to Sam, then returned to his seat. Silently, we took places at the back. One of the students, eyes red with tears, was sharing how his wife had degraded him, forcing him to perform humiliating acts for her lovers. The man's voice trembled, and his fellow students patted him on the shoulder, offering silent support. I glanced at the instructor, a burly man with sergeant chevrons, whose clenched jaw betrayed his anger. As the student continued sobbing, the counselor gently attended to him. Watching this, I realized I wanted to be a part of this organization. If there was any way I could help, I was committed to doing so. After the session, Sam signaled for me to follow him, and we left the building. He led me on a tour of the camp, showcasing its facilities. We eventually reached the instructor's quarters, where several men clad in khaki shirts gathered. Some were sergeant chevrons, others bore staff sergeant insignias. Sam introduced me, and I chatted with the group. Half of them were former Marine drill instructors, the other half ex-Army and COs. They were a close-knit group, deeply invested in their students' well-being. Interested in joining the team, one of them asked. Glancing at Sam, I replied, actually yes. Sam grinned and announced, I asked Gavin to be our new senior instructor. He's on terminal leave for now, but I'd like him to spend time getting to know everyone. The others nodded in agreement. Welcome aboard, Gunny, one said, shaking my hand, echoed by the rest. Thank you, I responded. Back in Sam's office, we discussed camp activities. So, you're in? Sam asked. Yes, Sam, I confirmed. He smiled, shaking my hand. Welcome aboard. Why'd you decide to join us? He asked. After hearing that man's counseling session, I explained I realized these things actually happen. I thought they were just stories you read online. Yeah, Sam nodded. It's more common than people realize. He then handed me a document with a laugh. By the way, I should make this official. I was astonished by the offer, a salary far beyond what I made in the military, and an impressive benefits package. Naturally, I accepted. Okay, Sam said, passing me a stack of folders. Some light reading to keep you busy for the next few weeks. Feel free to visit anytime. You'll definitely want to attend the cow burning ceremony. The what? I asked. It's a tradition at the end of each session, he explained. I think you'll find it interesting. The next 3 weeks passed quickly. Monica received and promptly signed the divorce papers without contest. My attorney informed me the divorce would be finalized in 30 days. Caitlin initiated her own proceedings against Eric, though hers would take about 90 days since she filed in Washington. I never heard from Monica again, and honestly, I had no interest in doing so. About 2 weeks after the divorce filing, her parents came to collect her belongings. I handed them a cashier's check for Monica's share of the bank accounts and gave them all the photos of her I could find. I wanted to rid the house of anything that reminded me of her. Her mother mentioned Monica was too embarrassed to face me. Doesn't surprise me, I remarked. Meanwhile, Caitlin spent the last 3 weekends with me and we had a blast. I took her fishing on Lake Pen Oriole, and unlike Monica, Caitlin embraced it eagerly. She even cooked the salmon we caught. I also visited the camp a couple of times a week to chat with the instructors. I learned they were all combat veterans and had been through divorces themselves. A few were even entering new relationships. I attended several group counseling sessions to better understand the students' motivations. Their stories truly moved me. I also discovered why the camp was so heavily guarded. One student had been targeted by an organization called MACE. He fled his wife and sought refuge at the camp, but MACE was relentless. They even attempted an armed assault on the camp, but were thwarted by vigilant guards from an unfamiliar federal agency. Consequently, the camp now had strict regulations. Any mention of MACE required immediate notification to the agency. Toward the end of the month, Sam invited me to witness the cow burning ceremony, which marked the end of the 3-month program. Dressed in my class uniform, I drove to the camp. The ceremony took place at night. Sam and I stood back as spectators while the students affixed pictures of their wives to a straw figure. The figure was hoisted up and tied to a pole surrounded by firewood. One student was called forward and handed a lit torch. Set the wood ablaze, instructed the teacher. Sir, yes, sir, the student replied, igniting the fire. Flames quickly engulfed the straw effigy. The students chanted, "Burn, burn, burn," as the figure was consumed by fire. When it collapsed into ash, they erupted into cheers, some even relieving themselves on the smoldering remains. The spectacle continued until the figure was completely reduced to ashes. "What's the purpose of this?" I asked, turning to Sam. "This ritual offers the men closure," he explained. "It allows them to release their inner turmoil without resorting to violence against their spouses. Tomorrow, they'll graduate, ready to confront life's challenges. Just imagine, 3 months ago, they'd arrived broken. Tomorrow, they leave as reinvigorated men." I nodded, briefly picturing Monica symbolically bound and consumed by flames. The thought brought a subtle smile to my lips. "How are things at home?" Sam asked. "Progressing well," I replied. "The divorce will be finalized soon." "Are you coping?" he inquired. "I'm managing," I said. "Better than expected." "Good to hear," he remarked. "Your break ends in a few days." 3 days, precisely, I acknowledged. "Wonderful," he said, enthused. "I look forward to your readiness to meet our new students. They arrive in 4 days, and you'll need this," he added, handing me a small box. Inside was a set of polished chevrons. "Sergeant Major?" I asked. "Yes," he confirmed. "This signifies your role as senior instructor." "Congratulations." "Thank you," I said, grinning. "No," he countered. "Thank you." Over the next few days, I spent time with Caitlin. She offered to buy her out of a house, which I agreed to. She intended to move Monica in, prompting Caitlin's urgency to leave. I suggested she move in with me, and she readily accepted. I rented a trailer, helped facilitate her move, and settled her into my home. It would be snug at first, but I was confident we could make it work. The morning of my first full day at camp, Caitlin provided a lavish breakfast and kissed me goodbye. "Keep up with them," she urged with a smile. "I will," I promised. Unsure where my relationship with Caitlin would lead, I was open to exploring it. So far, she had filled the void left by Monica, and I couldn't recall feeling this content in a long time. Arriving at the camp, I checked my appearance in the mirror, adjusted my uniform, and stepped out of the truck. As I scanned a small group of men in the parking lot, I muttered to myself, how do they expect me to mold men when they don't even send me proper human beings to start with? Remove this pathetic lot from my sight and begin processing them before I lose my temper. I barked, "Yes, Sergeant," a man acknowledged, ushering the group toward processing. As they disappeared, I turned and spotted Sam, grinning from ear to ear. "Excellent job," he praised. "Welcome to Camp Valor." Thanks to everyone who took the time to listen to today's stories. If you enjoyed it, please consider liking and subscribing if you haven't already. Feel free to share your thoughts on the events in the comments below. Take care.